What's up, everybody? Today we're going to talk about how to build a track if you have something to work with from another track. So let's say if you're trying to make a remix or reinventing a track altogether, that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. How to, what the thought process is, how do you come up with parts and things like that. Just not so much logistics around how to do certain technical things, but what are the thought processes that are happening? What are you thinking about when you're creating a track or a part? How do you come up with a part? That sort of thing. Okay, I just finished this track called Memento. It's I call it a reinvention of the original Zed's track called Stay. I took the vocal track, just the vocal track, and I have created a different track all around it. So all elements in it are different except for the vocal. And so let's take a look. So first things first, when you import something in from the original, you got to make a choice. Do you want to leave it as the original artist had intended? Do you want to change its pitch? Do you want to use a different key? Do you want to use a different speed? I always try to change it up because you know why? There's already a artist who's done it with that thing. The way they did it. I don't like to add to a remix. I want to go ahead and reinvent the whole thing. So that's my approach. So I definitely go with a different key, different speed, or something like that to make sure that, yeah, sure, it reminds you of the original, but it's not the original. So just in case you're not familiar with Zed's Stay, the vocal sounds kind of like this. Waiting for the time to pass you by. Pretty high voice there. It's a girl, and this is what I changed it up to. Waiting for the time to pass you by. Sounds like a guy. If you never had heard Zed's Stay, you couldn't tell probably that this was a girl before. So that's kind of the thing that I'm talking about. And you can do that with any element that you pull. So let's say if you pulled another stem from the original, you can change it up to totally different thing, and you can even stretch it or warp it differently, or play it in reverse, put it through some effects. You can do so many things to make sure that it reminds you of the original, but it's not just the original thing. Okay, so that's the number one thing. So you grab something from the original to sort of make sure that your song that you're creating is going to sort of be in the same universe as that other song, because you're trying to do a remix or a reinvention of the original song. Okay, then you start building elements around it. So what elements do you build around it? Well, the first thing you got to do is create a chord progression. Okay, so what you want to do is get yourself a backbone of your song. So, why a chord progression? Why not a drum beat? Well, sure, you can do that if you want to, but here's my recommendation. If you have a good chord progression, a decent chord progression that sounds good with the thing you pulled from the original, then you have sort of a backbone of your song. All the other elements can be derived from this particular chord progression. So here, I went ahead and just did something in D minor. So remember, I changed the key of the original track, which allowed me to pull in a different key and different scale and all that kind of stuff. If you want to learn about scales and relative minors and things like that, you can let me know and I can make a video on that. Anyhow, so you basically go ahead and create a chord progression that works for you, and that gives you a starting point. One of the things that you want to do is when you're repeating parts, I'm just going to talk about these kind of things that sort of as they come to mind. So when you're repeating parts, try to repeat them but with slight variations. It could be velocity, it could be little different notes, it could be that you take the notes that you've written down, that you mute some of the notes and sort of, change up the rhythmic pattern maybe a little bit, the timing. Maybe one note comes in a little ahead of the other note. Like, so if I zoom in here, maybe this note comes in a little later, right? Little things like that will humanize your playing. Okay, so the one thing you want to make sure that you kind of like sort of pepper these kind of things everywhere. Okay, so you start with a chord progression, and then you start building different parts. So what are the parts of the song? There's the introduction of the song. There's the part before the chorus, like a pre-chorus. There's generally going to be a breakdown area where it gives the listener a little bit of a break from what's going on. There's going to be a secondary chorus, and there's going to be like an outro. You don't have to have an outro. It could be like a very small little something, but you know these are different parts of a song. I think in terms of how the arrangement should go, I think the best thing to do, you could certainly approach it from a theory perspective and follow a template. Not a problem with that. You can go ahead and do that. I try to sort of think, hey, what does this song need in terms of an arrangement? So I just sort of build and see what I need versus build from a template. That's why my songs tend to have a different arrangement each time, a little slightly different. So I've gone ahead and taken the chord progression and have played different instruments with it. So for example, this guy. Right, so that's one. Here's another one. Okay, so there's different parts doing the same kind of thing. Right, so all these different parts, when they combine together, they sound like this. All you have to do is okay, and there's other parts that sort of pepper in, like the thing I mentioned initially, where when you repeat things, you want to make sure that you pepper in things, changes, so that the listener does not get bored. So when you're repeating a 16 bar, so you have 16 bars to play with. You're going to be doing like 4, 4, 4, 4. Okay, you want to make sure that there's some change happening so that they're not bored with you in the next second, right? So for example, in this case, I started playing around with something like this. So all that that type of a thing is really simple to do. All you got to do is get yourself, figure out, get a little part of the a cappella, and you can drop it into a sampler of some kind and just start playing it like an instrument. And so you can layer those with some other sound like this. And when that combines together, see how that's working? It's just you're gonna be adding different elements to your parts so that they sound different. So when you look at a part, I'd like you to look at them in like these chunks of 4. Okay, so let's look at this guy. Okay, right here, it's like 4 bars. Okay. Okay, so the listener is done with that 4 bar part, and they know what that is. If you repeated that, 3 more times, they'll get bored. So you gotta change it up. So now it was, all I did to go to the next 4 was to raise the pitch. Okay, here we go. And so I raised the pitch, and also here's what I did. The first part sounds like this, for example. So it's continuous, right? There's no cutoff points there. But in the second version, I did the same thing, but I cut it off in the middle, and then I had some other instrument come in wherever the cutoffs were. So you get what I'm saying? So you've got the same instrument. Okay, this is how it was, and then I cut parts of it out, and then I made sure something else was playing in that part to give a effect of something new happening. Here we go. You see what I'm saying? So basically, I didn't play this part, which you're hearing right here. I could have played it in the first 4 bars too, but I didn't because I want to make sure I save it for the second 4 bars to give the listener a change happening, right? So once that's all done, I can go ahead and repeat that again. So now that's 4 plus 4, that's 8. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that. I get another 8. But now I know that the listeners already heard them both, right? So what can I do a little different? So I added this little bit that I explained earlier, which is this little. Okay, so that gives it a little bit of a different kind of flavor. And then what else can I do? I automated the vibrato on one of the main lead lines. Okay, so what that means is I'm just kind of like throwing things in there that sort of makes it sound a little different, even if it's like a minute thing, like a freaking rate of a vibrato. I bet you won't notice that. Like if you really, really listen, maybe you could pick it up, but you won't even notice it. But somehow you're going to say, oh, it's a little different. And also, if you notice here, this is like the first 4, the second 4 were of this main lead were higher pitched, but the higher pitched, I didn't repeat it again. I did not repeat it again because it was high pitched, and it was like, I don't want to like kind of shatter your ears or anything. So just to sort of say it's A, B, A in this case, I guess. But think of things in that manner. Create these 4 bar parts, and then repeat them, but repeat them with changes. Okay, so that's kind of sort of lesson 1, I guess. Once you've got that, and you've also got other instrumentation that you're playing. There's also noises and things you can do. There's like sweeps and stuff like that you can put down, little cymbal hit things to sort of let the ear know that's something has happened right now. So for example, at the beginning of it, when you have the drop, you want to create an impact. So check this out. Right, there's an impact, and something has started, and then you can also impact sort of to denote the starting of a second thing that's different from the first. So you can see that if we look at the 4 bar loops, right, 4 bar, 4 bar, 4, 4. This is sort of like its own little universe, right? There's like, and within this 16. There's things happening at that length too. So this is for a 16 bar. There's an impact happening in the beginning, right? I'm not doing the fucking impact like every 4 damn bars. Like your ears would shatter, right? So just saying. So let's see how it sounds in the second portion of this after the 16 bars when you go into the breakdown. Much more of a release, and that effect you heard is because there's noise, right? The reason I color it differently here because I let this noise go for a long time, like a long sustain, on that noise versus these noises. These were like dying down faster, even though they don't look different. But when you go into them, you can see that there's automation going on in here. Okay, so I just colored them differently, so I kind of have a mental note saying, okay, something different is happening there. So that's kind of how that goes. All right, so that's a chorus. All right. And then when you take that chorus and you want to repeat it again, okay, same exact principle applies. And just like the first chorus, this has the same elements, but I wanted to make sure that it was a little different. So first thing I did was extend it by 2 more 4-bars, so 8 bars, right? So I extended it to equal to, now it's 24. Right, so 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, and 4. But same kind of thing applies. I need to make sure that, first off, when I copy this chorus over here, that I'm modifying it a little bit just so that the listener is like, oh, it's a little different. And then within these sets of 4 here, I make sure that it makes sense, like how they're transitioning from one to the next. That there's a first 4-bar kind of set up the second 4-bar, that kind of thing is happening, and that there's variations happening along the way, and the last 2 that I add are a little different than the first 4 you've heard. Also, I kind of overarching kind of thing I added was a vocal of a singer where they're just kind of belting out a note. So for example, so just adding that gives it a little bit different feel. So check this out. Okay, so that's what's going on. Things are a little different, right? Also, the vocal, I'm kind of modifying the vocal. See how the vocals cut up like crazy? Well, that's to make sure that I'm not constantly repeating the same thing. It should make it a little different, just a little different here and there. For example, in the last 2 4-bar loops, so the 8 bars, I instead of cutting it up like this, instead of just cutting it after, just stay. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and let it sort of, go the whole thing. So that's how this came about. Right, so the whole thing. So just to make it a little different, give them a feeling of that something new is playing. Okay, so that's chorus number 2. So same kind of thing happening. It's just that you add variations. You add variations in the vocal. You add variations in the way you're arranging your parts. But you got to make sure that you sort of think of the 4 and 4 parts. So the 8 bar part in this sort of A-B sort of way, meaning the first 4 bars need to make sense with the second 4 bars, and then kind of continue that theme forward. Okay, let's talk about the middle, the breakdown. The breakdown should give you a feeling of release. So what you want to do is you want the listener to forget almost what they've heard, so they can be surprised again with the same chorus that you heard before, but a little slightly different. So we have 2 choruses. The first one's, let's call it A chorus, and the second one's chorus B. The chorus B, what I just showed you, was a little longer, but I added some variations here and there. But trust me, nobody wants to hear like 5 minutes of fucking chorus, so they want a break in the middle. That's where breakdowns come in. Okay, so that's what this is all about. So what I like to do is sort of completely change up and give them something different instrumentation. Just go different. All right, so let's just take a look what happens here, and we'll go from there.
All you have to do is stay. All you have to do is stay. So stay. Yeah. All you have to do is stay.
Okay, so see how I just gave you a break from the madness? Well, that was intentional, which gives you the feeling of something different is happening, and it's relaxing, and it's like there's a noise in the back going psst, just kind of like relaxing, the listener. Another key thing that's happening throughout the song, which I haven't talked about yet, is tempo changes. DJs are gonna hate your ass, but tempo changes can actually really help create feel in the song. So I wouldn't recommend heavy tempo changes in a song that you need to play in a club or something, because a DJ needs to be able to like figure out what the hell tempo you're at. But I'm not a DJ, so fuck that. So basically, if you look at the tempo, check this out. You see how that's modifying over time? It starts slow at about 77 BPM, goes up to 90, sustains 90 for the entire duration of the chorus, goes down to 80 during the breakdown, and then in the middle of the breakdown starts rising again, because now we're at the pre-chorus. We're building up to the chorus, and again at the chorus it hits 90, sustains 90 for the entire chorus, goes down again to about 75 when it ends in the outro. So why do I do that? Why did I do that? In this case, I wanted to play around with tempo. Tempo is another thing that you can play around with. So there are no fucking rules as long as you're staying. I mean, I don't even want to say staying in key, because I don't know if that's a fucking rule. There are no rules. Whatever sounds good to your ear works. So if you can kind of try to pick up on the tempo change, you'll see what I mean. There's a definite sense of slowing down, right? And that was the whole point, to sort of put that tempo change right in the face of that person and say, hey, relax, motherfucker, just relax. You just heard that awesome chorus. You need to just, take a minute. So check this out. Just hear the tempo if you can.
All you have to do is stay. All you have to do is stay.
It's the lowest point. It starts rising.
So stay. Yeah. All you have to do is stay.
Okay, so because of that tempo going to that level and coming back up, what it did, it creates an even more of a feeling of a drop, right? At that point, so you know how people have always talk about, well, you know, the drop needs to be a little bit louder, you know, so that there's like a change and people like, you know, are totally into this drop thing, you know, blah blah blah. You can also use tempo, because tempo, it gives them this thing to grab onto, like, oh, I was just relaxed and now it's faster. They don't know, listeners don't know what the fuck is going on. It's just, you know, you're just like subconsciously mind fucking them a little bit, you know. They don't know what the hell's going on right here, but you know what's going on, right? And again, DJs hate your ass because they're like, what the fuck tempo is this? You'll be in like 80.75, you know, right here. Just saying. But that's the deal. You know, you don't wanna. I don't know if I haven't experimented with tempo changes in the middle of the chorus. I don't know about that, because the chorus is such a beat-driven thing, and you're, you know, always like beating that drum. I don't know, that'll throw people off, I think, but, you know, maybe in the future, I'll see. But definitely try tempo changes with your breakdowns. Okay, even in the intro. Okay, going up to a chorus, there's a tempo slide. Okay, coming out of a chorus, same thing in the outro. So I'm gonna go ahead and play the outro and see how it kind of slows down and just sort of just gets you in the mood for, you know, going, just relaxing after the song's done.
It's ticking, so stay. All you have to do is stay. All you have to do is stay.
Okay, so intentionally created, right? I could have kept the tempo exactly the same, but it's just what I wanted to do. So try that. Tempo changes. All right, so where were we? We were at the breakdown. So introduce a new element that they weren't expecting, and they're like, what the fuck was that? So for example, right here, I don't think you may have not noticed it, but at the very, very end, when it's about to go into the drop, I played this little sitar. Okay, all it is like a little highlight, but watch this.
So stay. Yeah. All you have to do is stay.
It's just one more thing different that they didn't know that was in there. So that's the whole thing, right? Making things a little different here and there. All right, so that's the breakdown. In terms of how to create an intro, I like to start slow in terms of intros, but I'm probably going to be looking into something different. But what I like doing is starting with the chord progressions, kind of building it up. Have a chord progression, have instrumentation playing or the vocals going, and then you can sort of build from there. That's kind of my intros. My outros are similar. I like to sort of use this, sometimes the same thing that I use in the breakdown, actually, because I think when you're at the outro kind of a part of the song, I think no new elements should be introduced. You know, maybe there are chances here and there of doing that kind of thing, but I like to keep it something like, okay, they've already heard this, so that's what we're going to end with. So a breakdown as kind of as an outro, you know, works pretty well. So that's kind of what I did here. It's just a piano, sort of a.
All you have to do is stay. All you have to do is stay.
Right, so that's what it is. And so that's it. That's the entire song. snares and kicks, those or whatever, like whatever I could think of in terms of a drum beat, Then I added this loop that I found in one of the loop bank things. And then so it works. Nothing special there. It's just the first thing I thought of, and there it is. I think what really matters in a song are the different elements coming together, and the chord progressions and things like that. The instrumentation, how does it sound like? That's the most important thing. Okay, that's it. That's the whole song. So check it out. I call it Memento, and it's all about taking one thing from another original track and creating something new out of it. And yeah, let me know what you think.